get rid of an entire number of generations of Hebrew babies to try to cut down on the number of Hebrews. So he passed a law that said that Hebrew babies would be drowned into a river or killed. So Moses' mother starts freaking out, and she says, okay, I'm going to put this little baby, Moses, into this little basket and puts him into the river, and God miraculously saves Moses. And he grew up into Pharaoh's household. And if you've ever seen the movie The Prince of Egypt, you kind of know where this is all going. You know, he was taken as a baby into Pharaoh's household and raised by Pharaoh's relatives as an Egyptian, even though he was a Hebrew. And for 40 years, he was an Egyptian. Except for every time that he would look at his reflection in a pond, he would realize, wait, I don't look like an Egyptian. You know, I might walk and I might talk and I might, have all these sort of things like an Egyptian, but I am, in fact, a Hebrew. And he decided that it wasn't really fair that his Hebrew relatives were being taken advantage of by these Egyptians. And so he said, I need to solve this problem. And he didn't do a really good job at it when he went to do it. And so he had to leave all of Egypt in a hurry. And so you can imagine this, here's this 40-year-old guy, and he's escaping from Egypt with only the shirt on his back, and he's going out into the desert. And then he meets up with this family. And then he needs some help, and so they hire him. And he ends up marrying one of the guy's daughters, and he becomes a shepherd. And then a year goes by, and another year goes by, and another year goes by, and about 10 years go by, and suddenly he's looking back over at Egypt, and he's saying, things really haven't changed back over there in Egypt. It's been 10 years. Things are starting to go pretty well for Moses at this point. He's married, and he's become a shepherd, but he's just kind of going through the motions. And then 10 years go by, and another 10 years go by, and another 10 years go by. And he's almost 80 years old at this point. And things haven't changed much for him. And so on occasion, Moses is thinking back, and a long time ago, I was a kid back out there in Egypt. It's where I grew up. And fortunately, by God's grace and providence, or maybe by my stupidity, I got out of there. And life's pretty settled for this 80-year-old guy at this point. And then one day, he's out shepherding sheep. And he sees a bush that is on fire. But the fire isn't going out. And the bush isn't being consumed. It's this miracle. It was God appearing to him in the form of fire. I have never had this happen to me before. I don't anticipate it will, but this is a crazy story that is happening to this 80-year-old guy. And then the story picks up here in Exodus 3. You're going to be able to read it up on the side screen so you can see it from here. It says that then God told Moses, I have certainly seen the oppression of the people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering. So God announces to Moses, I've seen my people. They've been there for 400 years, and I realize it. I get it. But I've seen it, now I'm concerned. And then the story goes on. Picks up again. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey. The land where the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivitites, and the Jezebites, and the Perizzites, and the termites now live. I might have made a couple of those up. I gotta make sure you guys are still with me, right? You hear a big list like that, Are you with me?
Yeah.
All right, good. Here we go. Let's continue. The story continues, Exodus 9. Look, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abused them. To which Moses has got to be sitting there thinking, this is very encouraging. This is exciting. This is good news. But I got to ask you a question, God. Why are you asking me? Why are you coming and talking to me? I'm just this old guy hanging out here. I'm taking care of sheep right now. I'm almost 80 years old. This is great news. It needs to be done. You need to do something. You need to go save your people. But why are we having this conversation? What does this have to do with me? And then God says this, Exodus 3:10. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. And again, I don't know what Moses was thinking at this point. But if I just heard what I thought that I heard, what I just read, I would be sitting there thinking like, whoa, hold on a minute. Didn't you just say, I've come down to go rescue? And now it sounds to me like you're saying, I have come down to tell you to go rescue. Moses is thinking, I've already been out there before. I was out there 40 years ago. Things were not good then, and I don't think they're going to be any good now. So I think, God, you should go, and you ought to do something about this. I'm really happy that you're finally paying attention to the people of the world right now. I mean, they've been praying for 400 years, and we're still waiting for you to come do something about all this. And I'm not going to question your timing, but I'm just glad that you're going to go. And then Moses, God says to Moses, no. I want you to go. I want you to go. I want you to go do something. God's saying, Moses, I realize that you like this idea. I realize that you get behind this conceptually. I recognize that you're excited about my plans. I know that you love what is going to take place, but I want you to get involved. And I want you to get involved personally. Personally. And the big question that each one of us has to answer whenever God seems to be up to something is, will I be involved personally? Will I get involved personally? And as a matter of fact, I think a lot of the questions that he starts to have starts even in Exodus 3:11. It says, but Moses protested to God. Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? And Moses said to God what I think most of us would have said to God. Who am I? Who am I? I think it's a great idea, but I think you got the wrong person. Here's a little thought. I think that the reason that God decided to use Moses was because he was hesitant. He was unsure of himself. He didn't feel like he had a lot to bring to the table. And confidence isn't a bad thing at all, but you rarely hear a story about God using any kind of cocky people. He doesn't seem to pick up the people who say, hey, God, check me out. Look at what I got going on. Look at my resources. Look at my capabilities. Look at all the things that I got going on. Look at my personality. You need me, God. It's like he's telling God what to do. As a matter of fact, the people that God seems to use are the men and the women who make a really significant impact in the world. The people who say, humbly, if you can use me, I'll make myself available. I may not have all the resources. I may not have all the charisma or the energy. I may not have a lot of abilities, but what I do have, it comes from you. And that's the men and the women that change the world, that make a difference in the world. God basically responds to Moses' lack of self-confidence by saying, hey, dude, guess what? I'm going to be with you. I'll be there with you the whole way. In verse 12, he says, God answers, says, I'll be with you. And this is your sign, that I am the one who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. And that might sound a little confusing when you read that a little bit. But God's saying, hey, look, Moses, there's going to be a day when you will be standing right here again. You will be right back here at this mountain again. And you will be standing here, and behind you will stand the whole nation of Israel. And on that day, I don't want you to miss out on the wow factor. I don't want you to miss out on the look what God did factor. And I don't want you to miss out on what was really happening here. That it wasn't your talents, and it wasn't your abilities, and it wasn't your resources, but it was God. And one day you're going to stand here, and behind you is going to be a couple million people and a bunch of cattle, because that really mattered a lot back in those days. And then half of the wealth of Egypt. And when you come back to this moment, I want you to remember what I told you. And I want you to be able to go, wow, look at what God did. Look at what he put together. About a year ago, I started sitting in a coffee shop trying to dream up what next city was going to become. I started asking a lot of questions and talking to a lot of people and started dreaming up this idea of a church where no perfect people were allowed, where it didn't matter how much you knew about the Bible, where it made it easy for people to be able to come and experience God or experience community, have a good time, to further each other in our faith development, where we could come together and take risks. Where we would talk, and it would be laser focused on helping people find and follow Jesus. And I think that we've got a big mission ahead of us as Next City, as far as our DNA is concerned. And it may be 3 months from now, or it may be 3 years from now, but I believe that there's going to be a lot of people who want to come out to something like this. And I believe that Next City has got a lot of potential behind it. And I may be dumb enough to believe in it, but honestly, I will not give up on this.